happy new month. Welcome to the start of a brand new quarter of your favorite TV show, CAC Weekly, a weekly program that keeps you abreast on the activities and the achievement of the Corporate Affairs Commission. My name is Amina Jibril. Coming up on the program, how much progress has CAMA 2020 made after almost 2 years? We will also examine CAC's integration with NIMC, and then the implementation of Beneficial Ownership Register comes on the focus. We'll be right back with an action-packed show. Stay tuned.
A name other than your forename and surname without registration. For every day that you operate, there's a penalty that you have to pay. And you may even be arrested.
So as an individual, if I render a service and I don't register...
If you render a service in your name, personal name,
yes,
you don't have issues.
No registration.
There is no limitation because a human being has unlimited capacity. You can do anything that is legitimate, that is legal.
That's the lawyer in you speaking.
But if you are using, if you add, maybe you say Debbie Broadcaster, that's not your name.
Oh.
Or Debbie Ventures,
Okay.
or Debbie Enterprises, or Debbie and Sons.
Okay.
You have added some words, so you must register.
Oh.
But if you are using your own full names, you don't have issues. It behoves the person dealing with you, whether he's satisfied to deal with you as an individual. Because there may be other individuals that have identical names like you. And he has no way of verifying sometimes because there is no central register that he will check and match your identity with another person's identity. So that's the beauty of having your names and details in a central register of businesses that anybody can verify.
Welcome back. You may recall that the CAC commenced the implementation of the CAMA 2020 Alliance, the game changer, in January 2021. Now, almost 2 years later, CAC Weekly caught up with the Registrar General and CEO of the Corporate Affairs Commission, Alhaji Garba Abubakar, who reviews the journey so far for us. Enjoy watching this interview.
Alhaji Garba Abubakar, Registrar General, Corporate Affairs Commission. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a while, isn't it? So tell us what happened in the last 1 year.
What happened with CAC?
Yes, what happened with CAC in the last 1 year? Yes.
Thank you so much. The most topical issue is the implementation of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020.
Okay.
As you are aware, the act was promulgated in 2020 and Mr. President assented to it on 7th of August of that year. Because of the requirements of the law for the gazetting of the bill, the process of gazetting took some time. The final gazette was eventually made available to us by the clerk to the National Assembly in November of 2021. So we had November to January in November 2020. We had barely 2 or 3 months to start the implementation of the law. And because of the extensive nature of the changes, a lot of things have been introduced that were hitherto unknown to the law and unknown to the companies and other stakeholders. We needed to come up with regulations to support the implementation. The essence of the regulation is to clarify some areas of the law and provide for disclosure requirements that will support a hitch-free implementation. So we had November to January, from November 2020 to January 2021 to come up with Companies Regulations 2021, get it approved, and start the implementation. And we did it in record time. For the first time, or for the second time, the regulation was made available to all stakeholders for their comments. We got their input, and the final version was eventually approved by the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment in December of 2020. And we set a target date of 1st January to start the implementation. So far, so good. We are fully implementing the provisions of the new law. In addition to the Companies Regulation 2020, we had also come up with insolvency regulations because we have new legal framework for resolving insolvency, which is now contained in CAMA 2020. And for the first time, the law provides for accreditation of insolvency practitioners. Hitherto, issues of insolvency was an all-comers affair. Non-professionals could apply to be liquidators. They could apply to be receivers, although traditionally it has been the work of lawyers and accountants. But there was no specification in the law that provided for any form of qualification before one is eligible to practice as an insolvency practitioner. So for the first time, the CAMA 2020 now gives us the power to accredit insolvency practitioners. And before you are accredited, you have to undergo some form of training organized by a body that is licensed to carry on such kind of training for insolvency practitioners. At the moment, we have the Business Recovery and Insolvency Association of Nigeria. Okay. We have the Nigerian Bar Association section on business law. They have also introduced their own training. The Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators is also at the verge of introducing their own training, as well as the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. So we have these classes of professionals that are training people. The focus of the new law is not actually aimed at killing the company. The focus of the law is on rescuing the business, because if you allow the company to die through liquidation, everybody loses. The employees will lose their job. The investors
Lose their money.
will lose their money. Even the government will not get taxes. So the focus now is on how to rescue the business. That's why you require this specialist training for the professional to know how to do this rescue. And we have different arrangements. We have administration. We have company voluntary arrangement. Then we have the traditional receivership and managership. And we have the winding up and liquidation. Apart from that, we have deployed a state-of-the-art technological solution to drive the implementation of the new law. Since 3rd of January 2021, the process of registration is fully digitized. You don't even need to visit CAC. You can see from our offices, from our gate. You don't see the crowd that used to. So customers can transact with us from within or outside this country seamlessly. And that has been a major leap in our transformation, because from anywhere, even lawyers, practicing lawyers that are currently attending school outside Nigeria, they still carry on their legal practice. They register companies and they earn their fee. They don't need to meet physically with their clients. They don't need to see the client to deliver the certificate to you. Once they submit the registration application, it will be processed, and they get their results electronically. They may not even have to print these results. All they will do is to push it to their client. We've also introduced certain initiatives aimed at checking cases of fraud and falsification of documents. In the past, we were given unfettered access to customers to search through our files. And in the course of that, documents were being removed. We had high cases of pilferage, high cases of mutilation. And the major concern was even about falsification of signatures, because we were issuing CTC of documents that contain personal information of the directors and shareholders, their signatures, their actual date of birth, their identification numbers. Some of these customers will go outside, forge these signatures, and resubmit documents trying to make changes on these companies. And because we are not signature experts, once a signature appears regular on his face, there was no way you will know that it was not genuine. So these documents will be accepted and registered. After some time, the original owners of this company will complain that, look, I didn't authorize this. So we have to now investigate. If we are satisfied, we start expunging. With the new system, we don't issue documents that contain personal signatures of directors and secretaries. Even when a company is newly registered, you upload the signatures, quite right, because the law requires you to give your consent. You have to take up the shares and append your signature on the memorandum and articles. But the certified extract that we issue to customers give you a fair view of the company or the entity, stating the name, the address, the date of registration, the particulars of the directors or the trustees, and other details about the entity. It has my own electronic signature with a certified extract stamp. You don't see the actual date of birth.
Okay.
of the directors. You only see the months and the year. You don't see their signatures. So there's no way for you to falsify. And we've also restricted access in the system to two classes of people. In the past, somebody can come under the guise of accredited customer. He may be doing it. He may even use somebody's name. If he had access to your accreditation card, he will just photocopy it and submit documents in your name. We had no way of verifying because these documents are dropped. We process. Sometimes we are not having physical contact. We process on the strength of the fact that the accreditation card that is attached was actually attached by the right person. Sometimes such was not the case. With the new electronic system, everybody has his own account if you are an accredited customer. And that was why we insisted on revalidation of accreditation. Because some of the customers were opposed to it, but we insisted. We were aware that some of them had shared their details with some of their friends, sometimes with business centers, and filing were being made through their account by strangers. So we wanted them to take personal responsibility for whatever comes through that account. And that was the essence of the reaccreditation. And that has helped to sanitize the system. So since you have reaccredited, and you have provided your information, which was validated by us, you have no excuse to now claim that the filing was coming through another person. So if there is any wrong filing or falsification of any filing, you take responsibility. We've also created another class of access for the companies themselves or the entities themselves. A company can introduce one of its officers or any other person to manage its own electronic account. Once that is done, the company can make its own filings directly. Initially, when we did that, the right of third parties, other professionals to file on that company is still there. But very soon we are going to limit it to only third-party transactions. Once an electronic account is issued to an entity, then changes of directors or trustees, changes as to address, increase in share capital, or any transaction, annual returns can only be done by the person that manages that account on behalf of the company. The interesting thing about the electronic account is it allows that person to create sub-users. So it may not necessarily be him alone. He can create and also disable any person that he has created. So the essence of this is where a company has an electronic account, other professionals can only file what we call third-party transactions. Maybe where the company borrows money and a charge needed to be registered, then he can file. Or a receiver is been appointed by a lender, then an independent person outside the person managing the electronic entity account can also file against that company. Other than that, only the person that is managing that account will be able to file on behalf of the company. And the company may decide to discontinue the use of the account and continue to use professionals. In that case, they have to notify us. Some people have raised concern that the access to create electronic account is not available electronically. These companies still have to download the forms. Majority of the directors have to sign. CAC has to validate. This is strategic. This is intentional. What obtains in other jurisdictions when they are issuing account to entities, particularly UK, they send the username and the password to the postcode of the company. But we all know that in Nigeria, our address system has issues. If you send this, somebody may not even receive it. And if you are going to send it electronically, you may end up imposing the lawyer that was engaged or the professional that was engaged in the first incorporation process to continue to work for the company, even without their own acceptance. So we have divorced the right to register from the right to make changes. Even when you are a public user, if you create an account to register a company, after the registration, you cannot use the same account to file changes on behalf of that company. You have to apply for electronic entity account. This is deliberate. And to create an electronic entity account, you have to download the form from our website. You have to sign. You have to put the particulars of the person that is going to manage this account on behalf of the company, and his details, his email address, his phone number, if we are satisfied that the signatures appear regular on their page, why we didn't want to take electronic copy? Somebody can easily, because it's the company that is doing it. It's not a professional.
Yeah.
If it is a professional, we have his details, we can hold him to account. But we have to be satisfied that this is actually coming from the company. And the signatures have to be original signatures. After the validation, once the account is created, every other thing will be done by the company electronically. And they don't need to be here physically. They don't need to send any original documents to us. And they will have seamless access to transact from the system. Then, as I've said, the online system has actually changed a lot of things. You can now know the status of a company. Unlike before,
active or not.
Yes, unlike before, where you can see the name of the company, the address, the date of registration. It doesn't tell you whether this company is up to date and is regulatory filings with the commission. So we have introduced a status column that tells you whether a company is active or is inactive, or is a receivership, or it has been struck off. And the essence of this is at a glance before dealing with any company or any entity. At least you have this basic information that tells you the current status of that entity. Mind you, when you register a company, you are required to file returns with the commission every year. And these returns, depending on whether you are a small company or a company other than a small company, has to be accompanied by your financial statement. So the essence of the return is for anybody that wants to deal with you, because our registry is a public registry. This is about one of the few registries that any member of the public can access upon payment of requisite fees, and he can obtain information. Except with the recent changes in CAMA, hitherto there was no restriction in the kind of information any member of the public can access. So every information about every company with respect to its directorship, its share capital, its shareholding, its financial statements, by law, this can be made available to members of the public. So any diligent person that wants to deal with any company, either in doing business with a company or in having any relationship, the first point of call for that person should be the CAC. Check the CAC record to ascertain whether the company is actually active, whether it's still a going concern. If you want to transact, you can have access to the financial record of the company to even assess. Because if the company gives you a financial statement, that may not be
Enough.
That may not be enough, because it's only the statement that is filed with a public registry that may be authentic. Some may be sincere, they may give you what is correct. Some may part the statement. It used to happen before now. Companies submit different statements depending on who they are submitting it to. Okay. They submit what is suitable to them. But you can be sure that anything they file with CAC has to be regular, has to be correct. Otherwise, they will be liable to 2 years jail term in the event of any false information.
Okay.
So this portal allows any member of the public to know at a glance. And this information, this basic information is available at no cost.
Okay.
So, but if you need further information as to the details of the directors, as to the details of the shareholders and other things, this information has to be paid for. And you have the option to view the information only, which attracts 1,000 naira.
Okay.
You may also request for a certified extract.
Okay.
So a report, an electronic report will be generated that will give you the full information about the entity. And you get it, you download it, or it will be sent to your email, you print it, and you can be sure that the information is correct and it represents the correct position. We've emphasized on the need for companies to actually update their status. And how to update is, because of the migration from a semi-manual system, a semi-automated system, to a full manual system, we had situations where in the past companies have made filings manually. Maybe the records were not updated as at then. So now they have the opportunity. If they check and they see that the information is not up to date, they can send an email to spu@cac.gov.ng, and the information will be updated immediately. And that will enable them to make any filings or any changes. So a lot has been done.
Yes. In the last 2 years, a lot has been done.
A lot has
yes.
been done.
And I do know that in the course of the program, we'll be picking them one after the other.
Yes.
But what are some of the outstanding challenges in the last 2 years in the implementation of the CAMA 2020?
One area of challenge that we have relates to legacy companies, particularly as it relates to alteration of memorandum and articles of association, and also amendment of constitutions of association registered under Part F. Because those information were not in the system. That has made it difficult to file those alterations electronically. So we have to develop a system in a manner that will allow you to re-enter the information, to resubmit your memorandum and articles electronically, and you will now be able to change once the system stores the information. So that has already been built. We are doing the final validation.
Okay.
And once that is done, then you are set to go. Then the other challenge relates to transfer of shares. When we started the implementation of CAMA 2020, we didn't want to bother ourselves with matters that are not actually our responsibility. What the law says is, when there is a transfer of share, the instrument of transfer is supposed to be made available to the company. And the company will reflect the name of the new shareholder and its registered members. And when they are filing their returns, they will update the register and also update the record of the CAC. But we now stopped accepting instrument of transfer, believing that companies will do the right thing. But our people don't have the patience to wait until the next return before their name is reflected. Ordinarily, CAC is not the best place to confirm shareholder information. The companies themselves are supposed to maintain their own register. And the law provides that where a name is wrongly entered or removed from the register, a shareholder can apply to court for rectification. But nobody wants to wait. Nobody wants to put that responsibility on the company. Everybody wants to see his information in CAC. And you cannot just dismiss that, because that might have been as a result of genuine concern. You may not know who is managing the company. Somebody may remove your name without authorization. And to get it rectified, the process of judicial process sometimes is cumbersome. So we have to bend over backwards to accommodate
those concerns.
And what we are trying to do is, the system will allow you to either update your shareholding information, either as a result of transfer of shares, as a result of transmission. That is, transmission arises where a shareholder dies and the shares are moved, transmitted to another person, or where there is an additional allotment following an increase in share capital, or where a shareholder decides to surrender the shares to the company as a gift. So under these four circumstances, the system has already been redesigned. We are doing the final validation, and within the next 1 week, I think that should be in place. So, because what we discovered is, in an attempt to put themselves on our record, even where the intention is not to surrender, because we are accepting surrender as a gift.
Okay.
Customers now come and do surrender. Where if you investigate, you will discover that actually consideration had passed. But they will not caption it as transfer, because they know that will not accept transfer. Okay. So sometimes you have to be liberal, provided what you are doing is not illegal. It is not actually our responsibility to accept instruments, because we used to give this example. You can imagine the law is the same for public companies and private companies. For public companies whose transactions are done on the floor of the exchange, shares moved in, transactions are done daily. You can imagine if CAC is to be registering the transactions that are done, irrespective of shareholding of public companies, where this information. So it's the same law. But for private companies, by their nature, the law is the same. What comes out clearly is, majority of people don't trust those responsible for managing these companies. The fear is my name may be removed anytime.
I know it will be too much to chew in just 1 or 2 editions as far as the CAC and its achievement is concerned. I'm afraid we just have to leave it here. Thank you very much indeed, Registrar General, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And that does it for this week's edition of the program CAC Weekly. We do hope you enjoyed watching. For comments and inquiries, please take advantage of our social media handles and our helplines. On Twitter, it is as CAC Nigeria 1. On Instagram and Facebook, it is Corporate Affairs Commission. Our email is cservice@cac.gov.ng. You could also visit our website on www.cac.gov.ng. And our helplines are on the numbers 081-822-99016 or 081-822-98971 or 090-874-01598 and 090-874-01599 and 090-874-0166. Do join us next week for yet another interesting edition of the program CAC Weekly. Same time and same station. From me, Amina Jabril, and the whole team here, it is bye for now.